it's me again. Oh my goodness, that light is... I'm going to turn off that light. I got some complaints saying, like, sometimes the light washes me out, especially if I wear, like, dark clothes. Again, it's me again. So there's been a lot of FUD lately. The FUD is incredible. The amount of FUD circulating, the amount of frustrated people out there just needing somebody to talk to is really incredible. A lot of people are frustrated, and I understand that wholeheartedly. That's why I never tell people to be quiet. No, I understand that you're frustrated. I have a certain, like, I guess, set of guidelines I like to go by. One is I never tell people any questions stupid, because if you're asking questions, that means that you're capable of independent thought. And if you're capable of independent thought, then you're not really stupid. You might not know, or maybe know the context or be abreast of the situation. That's fine. I try and be as helpful as I can. Number 2 is I never tell people to stop saying win divvy, because I understand the frustration about this. And the fact, as I've talked about this in my MMTLP, like part 3, the fact that Meta used the whole torch the shorts and the whole dividend situation as a tactic to raise the price of the stock, slide out that offer, and raised about, $150 million from Meta to then go acquire businesses like Nanotech Security, as well as meet the equity requirement to get on the NASDAQ, to actually get that ticker symbol and get uplisted to the NASDAQ. Neither Meta nor Torchlight met the cash flow requirements. Understandable by Torchlight, as they were an oil and gas that just kind of resold assets, and they just kind of sat on this really big asset, and the market was very bad. But neither one, Torchlight or Meta, had the cash requirements, as I talked about in the MMTLP investigative series. That's a 5-part series. If you haven't seen it, you can go check it out. I go in depth about the whole situation and the timeline. As a result, they created an offer. The first offer was in February to eliminate Torch's debt, which is good. The second offer was in June, and Torch did it again to give money to get Meta uplisted on the NASDAQ. So far, Meta has done nothing but benefit from Torch. The 10K, the 2021 10K, as well as the 2020 10K, both give a history of why... Not 2020. 2021 10K gives a history of why Torchlight specifically chose Metamaterials to merge with. It's because Metamaterials, when it was something different, it was very futuristic, that gave a very good long-term outlook. 2, Meta let them have full control of the sale of the Oro Grande asset. And it was because they let them take their time with the Oro Grande asset to get maximum value in case the market did come back. That's why Torchlight chose Meta. I like to preface that with this context, because this context plays quite a bit in what I'm about to tell you. The rumor is that I'm quite the pumper. I appreciate the positive sentiment. A lot of people say I give people's expectations up. However, you are with me on this journey, and good or bad, I will report things and apologize for things which I have misled anybody. You are on my own personal journey with me. So anything good or bad that I find, I try to report to you. And some things aren't always easy, because you will go into areas and be like, man. It's part of life, right? What a story. I mean, that's all anybody does anything for anyways, is the sake of a story to be told about. If you don't have any stories that are wild in your life, what kind of life were you living, right? Again, prefacing why Torchlight specifically chose Meta when they merged with a company to retake over the listing. Meta's goal was to get as quickly uplisted to the NASDAQ as possible. That was Meta's ultimate goal. They've talked about that in other events, because it opened up a bit more contracts and financing for them. But with this being said, I'm also going to cite the Torchlight 10K. And I'm also going to cite the June 11th, 2021 Torchlight Metamaterials proxy statement. That was like one of the final proxy statements that they had to create money for Meta to get uplisted to the NASDAQ. And I actually figured that out when I started doing my dividend calculations. This is one thing that math uncovered, was the value of the announced dividend from the leaked video of George talking about that 1 to 20 to get to 20. You know, that all took in consideration, given the current net present value of the 2020 estimate of the property. That took in consideration 165 million shares in May, when George gave that, May 13th. So they knew that ahead of time, and that's why I went to an investigation about it, actually. Again, that's context. I'm going to put this out here now because I know FUD is going to run rampant and people are going to love to say Bird Lady's wrong. Bird Lady admits to being wrong when she is wrong. She's also willing to change things as new evidence comes to light. You know, as much as people like to say randomly throw stuff out there, I'm a bit more calculated than that. I am a risk taker, but I'm a bit more calculated than what my very extroverted personality leads you to believe. So as a result, let's get down to brass tacks first of all. Okay, item number 1, is there going to be a divvy in March? My answer to this, my speculative answer to this is no. Sadly, there will not be a divvy in March. I know a lot of people are hoping the spin out will be complete by March. I don't think it will be, sadly. My hypothesis is now 0. I was hoping it would be. As new evidence has come to light, sadly, I have to rechange that to no. The next question is 2, presentation in March. Maybe? I'm leaning also at this point no. And, you know, maybe George did tweet that said, yes, we will have a presentation soon, a dedicated presentation. So far, there's been nothing updated. What I think is going to honestly happen, they're going to release a letter from Investor Relations that says the presentation is for April. I do not know if the presentation will be ready by March, but I'm hoping for April. I'm also hoping for the Oilco spin out in April. Let's keep going. My sentiment on the dividend remains high. My sentiment on the dividend and the amount remains high. The timeline in which it goes is what is very not so good. Why? Why is this going to be pushed back? This is going to be pushed back because of a potential buyer kicking the tires. It's a potential buyer kicking the tires. If you remember, one of the proxy statements or one of the 10Qs, they said that they had a buyer and the sale was probable and will be closed within a year. And this was stated back in 2021 of a potential buyer to be completed within a year. Okay, somebody is interested in kicking the tires. It's because somebody is interested in kicking the tires as it's getting delayed. Here's what I think what happens with that and the timeline of things adding. I honestly believe, and this is speculation on my part, you can either choose to believe my opinion or not believe my opinion, but it is my opinion on what the timeline is, and this is my opinion of what happened. I'm not presenting to you as fact or gospel, but this is a timeline of what happened based on events. What I speculate, it's all speculation. They had a buyer, a potential buyer. We'll call it P of 1. P's of 1, a potential buyer come in. And they said, I'm going to give you, XYZ offer. It was a lowball amount. You know, this is a passion project for a lot of geologists. McCabe and Masterson, I'll cite. This is a lot of oil. I've never really taken in consideration the gas. I've always left that as my wiggle room to be conservative. So a buyer came in and gave him a low ball. This is where your probable buyer comes from back in 2021. They gave him a low ball offer. No. Torchlight said, no, we can take our time with this. We want maximum value. Okay. I know some people would have been happy to take the money and run, like that Woody Allen movie where he has a gub. The people controlling this project, they're not backing down from a lowball offer. They also want maximum value. You get P's of 2 buyer come in. They try to give a lowball. And then, you know, the management team and or Torch, McCabe, says, no, we want this offer. We want maximum value. And you know what my maximum value is? I've told you all the time. That would be a share range for us, 29 to 46, if you take in consideration Torch's cut. This is anywhere from a, you know, $10 to $17 billion sale. Before Torchlight's cut out of it. You remember that they have about a 65% working interest cut. The sale would exclude any mineral rights from university lands. They keep their royalty, they keep their rights, and the percentage of royalty McCabe has, and then that 0.5% of the other royalty holders. That amalgams up to 25%. They're not selling. So Torchlight would then take 66.5%. I've done the math before when I showed you the 49 or 65, when to use those two numbers in what context. So P's of 2 comes in and they say, we want to give you this. And they're like, no, we want this price. You know, we're not settling for a $2 billion offer or whatever it might have been. We want, you know, maximum value. And they say, well, we want to test drive this property for maximum value. We want to see a physical demonstration of what the property can do. This is why the recompleted wells, if you look on the Railroad Commission log, the recompleted wells have been drilled out to be wider than before. And this is also why that the 4 new wells are significantly wider than the other predecessing test wells that the company has drilled, that Torchlight drilled in the past. These are more set up to be full production wells. And the fact that they're doing laterals now on those wells would signify, yes, production. And that's essentially the current theory, which I think is great. Yes, people, the new potential buyer or buyers wants to see physical production. This is why the current 4 wells have been drilled out quite big. Now, let's get into what I was trying to want to hold this until the meeting was announced, but I don't think the meeting is going to be announced too soon. As a result, I might as well just put it out there now. Let's talk about the 2022 drilling plan. The 2022 drilling plan. Yes, there is a 2022 drilling plan. If you look on the 2020 Torchlight 10K, which was released in 2021, they talk about the future drilling plans for the next few years. COVID, they get a free pass. For the COVID year, they got a free pass. But the university lands still had them do 4 wells at least to meet the lease contingency agreement. For 2022, now they have to drill 5 new wells. Okay. And that's by the end of the year. 5 new wells. Okay. They currently have 4 wells from 2020. So that would be a total of, plus the 2 recompleted wells that they just did. That would be a total of 11 wells, almost if they were all drilled horizontally ready for production. Will they drill these 5 new wells? I think what they're going to do is do horizontals on the first 4 wells that they did. Now, they can't show a physical demonstration of the property until this is spun out into Oil Co. Keep this in mind. Once your producing oil, you're selling oil, right? You can't produce oil. If you produce oil, you're essentially selling oil. And the amount this property could produce on a daily basis, you can't just like kind of just keep it around. Where are you going to put it? If you're producing oil, you're selling oil. If you're producing oil, the valuation, of course, of the assets change. I've talked about this before. In production, not in production, how developed is it? That reflects it on the balance sheet. In order to get pumping and produce, all this has to be spun out into Oilco first. This cannot be on Meta's books. Meta will get taxed on this. And Meta is a Canadian company. They will get taxed. As a result, why this has to go into Oilco, an American company, a Nevada company. Oilco Holdings. Hooray. Favorable taxes all around. So, hence we need that spin out into Oilco. Something is holding this up. The spin out into Oilco. It could be in numerous amounts. If it's something with the SEC, it doesn't surprise me, as CEI has been waiting. In fact, the SEC is like, yeah, we're reviewing them. And that was back in, January. And they've been reviewing it for 3 months now. So poor CEI in that regard. This might be a similar situation. What do we know? Again, wholeheartedly, that there is a dividend being owed to the preferred shareholders, which will be distributed later this year. This would line up with the P's of 2 or P's of 1 buyer. What can happen if you have multiple buyers interested and they're just waiting around? If you have multiple people interested, and with the current sentiment of Texas drilling and how it's really heating up again. Yes, WTI is taking a little dip down, but really the whole sentiment of being as independent as we can on production and jobs heating up, and with my driller friend who says that, Shell's going out towards El Paso, Discovery's going out in, Hudspeth County. Shell's staying up in New Mexico, though, but Discovery's going in South Hudspeth County by Sierra Blanca. This whole ordeal has really created quite the demand and opened up quite the opportunities for a lot of people. There is the possibility that, Hudspeth operating / Next Bridge will start producing once the Oilco transfer happens. They'll start producing. If there's multiple buyers interested, they could start bidding up. Or do you want to get into that? Or would you rather just pull the trigger after seeing the production on 1 or 2 wells and pay the asking price? That's called a ruse. Other things to consider. I have the documents. Thank you, Red the Pirate, for getting me these documents. This is what was filed with Hudspeth County in regards to our asset. It is the loan from Metamaterials to Oilco. It's the loan from Metamaterials to Oilco, with Greg McKay being the grantor of this loan. He's the grantor. He's basically like the cosigner of the loan. This says it has to be paid back on or by, September 30th, 2022 is when it has to be paid back. That would put us at the beginning of Q4 when this needs to be paid back for a sale. So in terms of a sale, I don't question that there isn't a buyer. There certainly is, I think, somebody interested. But to get asking price for something on this scale, this big, you do have to show some physical production, which people are fine with, showing the physical production. The physical capability of the property. This is the actual test drive, right? To get that, we have to drill out the wells. To start getting the test drive, things have to be spent on Oilco. It has to be spent on Oilco anyways. Now, let's finally dismiss the rumor of it's going to be a traded company either on the OTC or on the NASDAQ. I will cite, let's bring up that proxy statement again. When the preferred share dividend was created, it was intentionally left unregistered because then it would make it very hard for people to trade this. However, it happened anyways. There was a slim possibility it could happen if you read the statement from the proxy statement that it was a possibility. It wound up happening. They had like a 4-day window to do it against the MMTLP. That would be part 5, that particular video. And I explained how it happened. That particular way to do it is called pre-quoting, which September 30th, that new 512C/11 rule that went into effect kind of, truncated that quite a bit. The new spin-out share that will be distributed to people for the sale of the Oro Grande is not to be registered, much in the same regard as the preferred share A was. MMTLP really gives us a window to either sell if we don't want to wait anymore and people are just frustrated and want to walk away, or you can continue to buy more if you're willing to wait a bit longer. We've already come this way. And 6 months, does seem like, or less, 6 months or less does seem like a long time waiting. The whole lack of transparency on this and the whole lack of transparency with, who Next Bridge is and everything still leads me to the buyer theory that there are buyers. And dating this back, looking through the filings, there was at least one probable buyer. There could be many probable buyers now, especially with other companies moving out to the area. If other companies are moving out to the area now, you would imagine that there's, a couple interested parties. They really want to see, I think, the capabilities of what the Oro Grande can do before they really plunker down the asking price, right? Which a lot of people would be fine with, as long as they get their maximum value dividend money in return. We know what I have calculated the maximum value to be, 29 to 46. I still stand by those calculations. If it's a bit higher, I will not complain about that. The math is there. I've done it. I've used it to discover things. Nobody has fed me the math. That's a rumor. There's a lot of rumors on StockTwits that a lot of people like to use instead of just asking me. I think they're afraid that I'll befriend them. But Oilco so far is to remain private as listed in the 10K. The fact that it's going to be a traded company worth $1 to $3, there's no evidence here to suggest that right now. I think what we're going to see again going into end of March is, unfortunately, a letter from Investor Relations and maybe giving a date for the presentation. And I think the presentation might talk about the 2022 drilling plan, which I just discussed with you. They have to wells have to be drilled anyways before the end of the year at that point. But the key is, is this new team capable of, drilling those wells quickly enough? I want to say yes. We've been told they're young and aggressive. That's it for today. That's the news I have. It's taken me a while. I've been working on this for several weeks now, actually. This particular timeline of events. And this is how I see it. I don't see a spin out into Oilco happening until at least April. At least. Hopefully we'll get the presentation by March. More or less, it might be just a letter. But I am thinking that the presentation, they're going to try and answer all the questions in the presentation. We'll see what they can answer. Like I said, NDAs. The fact that Next Bridge has been hidden and shrouded in mystery leads me to believe NDAs, which you would have if there are interested parties in this. Okay, guys, I will see you soon. Goodbye.